Live Hip Hop Daily Studio. Wrapping up the year 2023. It's been a phenomenal year on many fronts. And as we move into 2024, I'm sitting down with a gentleman from the Baltimore area. So we'll get into that, who's been all over the nation recently, spitting a lot of game, speaking a lot on things that are going on in a political realm, speaking on things as a creative. So it was great to sit down with you, or it is great to rather sit down with you recently. About a month and a half ago, we had an opportunity to break some bread and sit down and talk. That was real cool. So thank you for your time, Mr. Craig Scott. How you feel today, sir?
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Now, many people know your story, but they don't know your face. And you know, T.I. speaks on being urban legends and such like that. You're definitely an urban legend to many, and many look at you as being the Black Robin Hood to an extent. Yeah. You've done some time, done some things, and you're out here. I don't want to say making amends, but it's my grandma used to say, "Give me a little saying: when you know better, you do better." When you go through some things, you know, you have the knowledge and experience to actually help folks. So I want to dive first into the Black Robin Hood and actually get into your story, and give folks a little more knowledge on who you are. So you did spend some time in prison because of some things in what you've done in your younger years. Again, it was got you that name, the Black Robin Hood. Could you elaborate and share your story with us on that note?
Of course. First, thank you so much for having me here, sit down with you. And basically, back in the late '80s, early '90s, I was a part of the Black militant movement that was kicking off at that time. This is the time of Public Enemy, C.A.N.D.S, all of that. Ice Cube was on his pro-black revolutionary, situation. So I got caught up in that whole movement. And it basically started when I was in college, Boston University. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X for the first time, and that changed my whole perspective on everything. So I became very, politically active on the campus. We were bringing revolutionary leaders to the campus, like Bobby Seale, Kwame Ture. People know him better as Stokely Carmichael. We're protesting about the apartheid situation. So I'm doing all that on campus. Long story short, they kicked me off of the campus. You got to go. You're causing too much problem. So I get back to Baltimore, and I end up joining the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, where I got a lot of, that's where I learned my discipline, appreciation of history, theology, the whole 9 yards, and also, learned how to move in a more militant sort of manner. I'm not saying that the Nation of Islam taught me how to rob banks, but it gave me that foundation of understanding of how military operations basically work. So I rocked with them brothers for a little while, and basically to me the Nation of Islam wasn't militant enough. I wasn't really looking for a religion per se. I was more involved in the political aspect. So I left the Nation of Islam, and I came across another book by a sister by the name of Assata Shakur. And she was one of the members of the Black Liberation Army, which was a spinoff from the Panthers. And one of the things that they did is they went and they robbed white-owned banks, took that money and financed political activism, political education, arts and cultural events in the black community. And so basically I adopted that same tactic. So I got together with some brothers of like mind. We put a cell together and we started basically robbing blank banks and taking the money and financing different cultural events. One of the cultural events that we did was I did a play called Can a Nigger Do Shakespeare? And in that play is basically challenging the stereotype that brothers from the hood are not able to perform elevated text or intellectual artistic expression. So I took that on with that. We also did a lot as far as there was an organization called Sankofa. They taught dance to young kids in the community. So we helped them. We did just a lot of stuff like that for the purpose of raising the consciousness in the community.
It's funny. I actually Harry Belafonte and his family picked up a former Sankofa.
Oh wow!
And I did some work with them, and
Wow, that's
2016, 17, and it was a similar mission on which you're on now, like being politically engaged.
Right.
And they were sending us to different urban communities and different universities to register kids to vote and register. So it's funny that you were in the family. That's funny. Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's a small circle. When you talk about that pro-black conscious circle, you know what I mean?
So I want to elaborate on a few things that you said, but first and foremost, the mindset, as you mentioned, it took, like robbing banks is not a dumb man sport, for lack of a better term. It takes up a lot of intelligence, a lot of know-how.
Right.
And of course, I don't want you to give out any strategies or anything like that. But what was that experience like? Like what,
I mean, it's like once you understand some of the, the basics of military maneuvers and tactics and all of that sort of stuff, you basically, you gotta fill in the blanks. But just like in the American military, they tell you it's an on-the-job training. You know what I mean? So you learn how to, surveil the cameras and figure out what the personnel is going to be like. I remember one operation I went on by myself, actually, and I had to literally sit on this embankment that was close to the institution for I forgot how many hours, just watching, waiting for the opportunity to get up and to make my move. So in those hours, you starting to, and especially when you're by yourself, you starting to get scared. Man, I don't know if I should do this. I'm by myself. So you kind of got to talk yourself through all of that. And so, all of those are things that people who have been involved in any kind of, military type of actions will, go through. So just doing it repetitiously, repeatedly, if you will, you learn, and that's how you basically learn and how to put those type of operations together.
What was life like growing up in Baltimore? A lot of people who they have a certain image of Baltimore because they may have seen The Wire.
Yeah, I mean, The Wire give you a pretty good indication of what inner city Baltimore is like, unfortunately. And I had a couple of chances to go back there, and unfortunately, it's gotten worse. And I think one of the reasons why it's gotten worse is because the government at the time, they were just sweeping up everybody. And when they got rid of brothers like myself and the brothers that I was rocking with, they're getting rid of people who are trying to elevate the mindset of the people in the city. So when you remove that, then it's only the negative stuff that's being portrayed. It's only the negative stuff that's being emulated and imitated. So, 2-3 decades of that, the city's only going to get worse. And that's basically, what happened. It was rough, or it was bad when I was out, but at least you could walk from where I live downtown to the downtown library, and you can go through different neighborhoods, and, it wasn't no big deal. Now, if you don't belong to a certain set, if you ain't wearing a certain color, yeah, people going to job, check you, and is too many potential situations where stuff could get violent and go bad, and that's how it is now. And so that's just one of the effects of removing pro-black positive thinking type of individual men and women from the city, and that is basically the result.
When you did go to prison, what was that experience like for you mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Again, as I mentioned, I've had several occasions to speak to you. I definitely believe you are a very intelligent man. And I mean, you were intelligent before to accomplish some of the things in which you were accomplished and do the acts in which you were, giving back and such. But what was that experience like for you? And did you ever feel like that was the end, like that?
I'm gonna tell you one thing I think that helped is one, because I was committed to a cause, because I was involved in something that I believed in, that helped soften the blow. You know what I mean? But I think the number one thing that I had to acclimate my mind to was the senseless violence that was going on in city jail at the time. Now, back in 1994, city jail was like what Rikers Island was, you know what I mean? and it was so bad till they had to eventually, shut it down.
And for those who don't know, where is City Jail?
This was a prison in downtown Baltimore City,
Thank you.
right? And it was old school jail with the vertical bars that slide shut. It was basically built almost like it was like an old castle. That's what it looks like. Matter of fact, some people called it Gray Skull. That was one of the spots, nicknames that they used. And it was freezing cold in the winter, blistering hot in the summer. And the violence was just almost like an everyday occasion. And it wasn't so much that I have a problem with violence, but just the senselessness of it. Like it was just popping off just to be popping off. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I first got in, they send you to, first you go to, I forget, what was the thing? It was called B section. So this is the spot where you first go through when you're processing. So then they send you to a main tier. And I end up going to K section. Now, anybody from Baltimore back in the day, they heard of that section. Okay. And this is like one of the worst sections of the jail. First day there, I'm in a fight, stabbing, the whole 9 yards. So and it was just on some BS. You know what I'm saying? On some we don't know you, let's try you, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get acclimated to that. And I basically had to go through that for about 2 years because I had to go through not one trial but two. So so that was the first major adjustment that I had to make. And so yeah, that it was definitely a struggle in that beginning.
Now that you're home, as I mentioned, you're doing so many great things, and you're still on the political wave, and you're still getting your voice out there. You're still speaking on important topics in America, and mainly in urban America that affects Black people of all ages. What have been some changes in what you've seen, I'll say, in activism from the late 80s, early 90s into now? And how do you feel like your role is pivotal in, being one of those voices and educating up-and-coming voices on how to be heard? Right.
Well, I think that, of course, the number one thing that I'm seeing is that lack of Black militancy, if you will.
Do you think that's missing now?
Yeah, it's missing, definitely missing. Because now, remember when I first started out, what was the first thing I started running down to you? Was the music. You follow what I'm saying? And right now on the hip-hop scene, the music scene, we just don't have the conscious Black rappers that we had back in the 80s and the 90s. And that's missing. And it's having a very negative effect on us as a community. Because before, in hip-hop, there was some balance. You could get the gangster rap, you could get the drug dealing rap, but then you also had the political, conscious, type of stuff going on, and that's definitely missing. So that's something that I'm trying to, if you will, encourage younger artists to start incorporating, and basically I'm doing that by example, with the film that we'll talk about, and in instances and platforms like this, talking on that type of level. That's what I would like to see us, kind of get back to is that pro-Blackness, that Black unity and all of that. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Now you mentioned the film Can a Nigga Do Shakespeare? What made you develop, produce, create the film, the play and film, and what was the process like for you in actually putting it out there and getting others to believe in what you had created?
Okay. Basically, what happened was I got out. There was a gym in the neighborhood where I lived. My sister opened her home up to me, basically helping me to get myself back on my feet.
And it's still in Baltimore?
No, this is in North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm in North Carolina now.
Okay.
High Point, North Carolina, and. So I'm going to this gym, and they have these boxing exhibitions. And at the boxing exhibition, I get to meet a young man by the name of Tim McCain, who very familiar with, of McCain Entertainment. And long story short, we get introduced by the gym's owner, and I share my story with him. I share, my background with him, that I was an activist and an actor. And immediately, because he had a experience with filmmaking, he's like, bro, we got to make a movie about your life. You know what I'm saying? And I've heard other people say that, but he was willing to, to bet the house and financed it, brought in a videographer and an editor, Tamani Johnson, and we got together, man, and we started filming, and we started, putting it together. And I used a lot of the material from the play that I wrote back in the '90s by that same title. So that's how the film came into existence. And then we reached out to C.A.N.D.S and C.A.N.D.S Studios. They were, now most people know them for a lot of the gangster movies and all that sort of stuff, but they also will promote pro-black conscious artistic film. So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, we got to approach these brothers. And they were open arms. They weren't tripping about the title. It was a good good blend, and that's how we got on Tubi. The film is now being shown on Tubi.
Did you get any backlash originally? Did you ever think about switching up the title when?
Oh man, there was a lot of pressure about that.
I'm quite sure the Shakespeare literary community was like, "What the hell is going on?"
A lot of. What's interesting, man? I lost a lot of. I'm not going to say a lot, but I lost a good a friend for real that was in the television film industry just behind that word. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate, but the reality is that I think sometimes in that professional world, you can get so caught up in the political correctness till you will overlook a lot of things that are really of value. And I was never going to compromise on that. That's the title, that's what it is. But the reason why I juxtapose those two terms, Shakespeare and the nigger, is to, one, address the issue that we as black people are identifying ourselves as niggers, and we ought not to. That's the whole, the title of the movie is a question. Can a nigger do Shakespeare? The answer to the question is no, a nigger can't, but a black man can. So, you know what I'm saying? So that was, one of the things. And just to also, show that contrast, you know what I mean? And to bring that whole urban feel, that whole urban concept, and be able to let us know that we can do this high intellectual stuff. You know what I'm saying? Once we get out of identifying ourselves as niggas. You follow what I'm saying? So that was the whole, thing about that. But yeah, we, ran into a lot of problems with that.
Now, I know you also have a bit of a history as such with another Baltimore native, and Jada Pinkett, Pinkett Smith.
Jada.
What was your relationship like with her, Tupac, and I also know that you have a funny situation with
yeah. Well, currently, right now, me and Jada are beefing right now. But when we went to high school together. So when we were in high school, and I say this in the film, I taught them everything they know. I was the upperclassman when Pac and Jada came in like a year after me.
Okay.
So with Jada in particular, there was an after-school program that she was a part of that I was a part of, the previous year, and I basically helped the teacher teach that class.
Okay.
So that's why I say, I talk, gotta hype it up a little bit. So, but it was great working with her. We worked on a senior play together.
Did you see her future taking off back then?
Yeah, no question. Jada was like multi-talented. She sung, she danced, she choreographed, she acted, the whole 9 yards. So there was no question that she was going to make something of herself, from that. So that's, I definitely wasn't, surprised to see that. But fast forward up to the modern time. So the whole slap happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock. So Chris and Jada get into this whole social media beef and back and forth. She the homie, you know what I'm saying? She's from Baltimore, I'm from Baltimore. And personally, I felt as though that Will and Jada produced a lot of positive films. positive, uplifting films for, the black community. So I was, basically in support of her and Will. So when Chris decided to do his selective outrage piece on Netflix in Baltimore, I understood that, this dude is going to diss the sister in the city. So, I'm thinking, listen, I can't have that. I'm not going to sit by and allow that to happen, to the sister. So, as the universe would have it, I actually get to go to that filming.
Okay.
So when I go to the film, I say, listen, I'm gonna send a little message on behalf of the sister. So when he comes out at the beginning of his show, you'll hear somebody in the audience say, hey, yo, Chris, what's happening? Boom, disrupting his situation. So he turned around, he said, man, nigga, shut up, sit down, something. So when you see that at the beginning of his show, that was basically the only unscripted part of his performance. And I was a part of that. But now, so I'm doing all of this on behalf of Jada Pinkett. So now, just recently, she came to visit the school, the Baltimore School for the Arts, where we went. Do you know she didn't invite me to the... I said, "Oh, we beefing for real." So I gotta give a quick apology to Chris Rock. I'm sorry, forgive me for that. I was just standing up for the sister. But now I see, man, she is what everybody says she is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely have to, address that. But I was very, very disappointed. Like the least you could have done is, invite the brother, even if you didn't want to thank me for it, but at least do that. So when she did that, I saw. It's like she's gotten to a position or attitude where she doesn't think she needs regular, ordinary people on her side, and that's what she's losing. So, it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of it.
I also know you're moving into a new space as far as podcasting is concerned. Give me some history behind that.
Okay, the podcasting, we're working on a podcast called In the Know with Craig Scott. And basically, that's where I'm taking an opportunity to share my alternative views and perspectives on the current political situation. I come from a black, radical, militant background. So I'm going to see things from a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm sharing those different perspectives on the current events, like what's going on in Israel, the 2024 election, the whole 9 yards. So that's we should be putting those out at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Before I let you go, and it's been wonderful to sit down and speak with you today. I'm glad you just kind of highlighted the upcoming 2024 election because, excuse me, next year will be very, very pivotal.
It's gonna be
not only the direction in which America goes, but the direction in which our world goes. And I don't believe that it's getting as much attention as we've seen in the past. Now, maybe, that 2010 era being as though Obama was the president at that time, we and I say we as black people were much more engaged in what's going on.
Right.
But I do feel like since Biden's taken office and when Trump was in office, the engagement in the black community has definitely dwindled tremendously.
Oh, yeah, of course.
What are some things you think can be implemented to actually raise awareness again, not only in the young African American community, but in the African American community as a whole?
I think to address one of the things that you said about the lack of excitement in the black community with regard to the upcoming election is I think a lot of black people were disappointed with Joe Biden's administration. They were expecting some big things, you know what I mean, and those things didn't really didn't come about. So what's really going on now, that there's a movement happening among black voters where we are now saying we are not going to automatically give the Democratic Party our vote. We are no longer going to do that because we felt like, listen, we keep getting bit in the behind when we do that. So this time we're not going to do that. So we're going to be more open to listening to who the other candidates are, regardless of what their parties are, their party affiliations. And when, basically when you say that, the person on the other side that everyone is expecting to be the front runner on the Republican side is Donald Trump. And this is a controversial figure, the whole 9 yards. However, there are a lot of black working class, poor, justice-involved individuals like myself, who benefited during his administration. And now there's a willingness on our part to come out on public forums like this and say that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of black
you know what I'm saying?
They were going to vote for
you
Trump
know what I'm saying?
in 2024.
Yeah,
like,
because,
wow.
listen, man, you can't ignore that entrepreneurship was up under his administration. Home ownership and home purchasing was going on. I'm talking about within your own family, like you are experiencing and seeing this within your own family and your own community. Whereas the stuff that's happening with Biden, you know, they've got a whole list. Oh, Biden did this, Biden did that. But everyday ordinary people are not feeling it. They're just not. All we're seeing is high gas prices, food prices is crazy, you know, the whole 9 yards. And there's some of us, like myself, we're never going to forgive Joe Biden for what he did with that crime bill. It devastated the black community. It destroyed black families. And we are still reeling from that to this day. So those of us who are a little less turn the other cheek sort of people are like, no, we're not going to reward you again with the presidency. So yeah, we're more open to who are the other candidates.
I think it's going to be a very, very interesting time as we move forward into 2024. Man, it's been great to sit down and chat with you. Please let our audience know how they can follow you via social media. You're extremely active on social media.
Yeah.
Also, let them know once again how they can check out the film and just stay engaged and in tune with what you have going on.
Yes, sir. The film, Can a Nigger Do Shakespeare, is presently streaming on Tubi. It's free. Download the app if you don't have it. Check the film out. You're going to enjoy it. It's very informative. And please follow me on Instagram, C.A.N.D.S, Can a Nigger Do Shakespeare, _ in between each letters. C.A.N.D.S on Instagram. Yeah.
Much love, man.
Man, much love, man. Thanks so much for allowing me to come here and sit with you.
Pleasure to speak with you. Pleasure to help amplify your voice and get it out there.
Really
hopefully we'll get to sit down again. And I'll be looking forward to tuning into your podcast, man. I'll be looking forward to that.
Hey, no question.